Somerset Council. My name is Councillor Theo Butt-Philip and I'm chair of this committee. I'm chair in my capacity as Executive Lead Member for Transformation, Human Resources and Localities. This committee has the powers delegated to it by full council in Human Resources Policy. The committee meets as and when required and will, as necessary, to full council. It's worth noting that the principal functions of the HR committee are to determine, monitor, review and amend staffing policies and practice to secure the best use and development of the Council's staff, including the power to deal with all matters relating to staff terms and conditions. Today's meeting will be run using the webcasting system via Microsoft Teams. Committee members and key officers are physically present in the Luttrell Room here in County Hall, Taunton. Other elected members, members of the public and officers may physically or remotely join the meeting to speak on specific agenda items or observe. The agenda pack is available via mod.gov or directly from the council website, a link which has been sent out to members. When you are invited to speak, please could you speak clearly into the microphone and state who you are for the benefit of anyone who is listening to the meeting so that they can identify who is speaking. Please remember to turn off microphones and cameras when not speaking. There is a facility in MS Teams, for anyone using that, under the ellipsis button called Turn on Live Captions, which provides subtitles on screen. Please be advised that the meeting is being audio-video recorded. As the agendas are now viewed electronically, could I kindly request that members and officers refer to page numbers from the published agenda pack to assist all present in finding the appropriate information. Finally, there are no planned fire drills today. In the event of a fire alarm, please follow the fire exit signs and congregate in the car park. If anybody present might need assistance in exiting the building, then let one of the Democratic Services team know. Okay, item 1 is apologies for absence. Had apologies for absence from Graham Oakes and Faye Purbrick. Have we got any other apologies? Yes, Councillor Fothergill. Apologies from Councillor Mark Healy. Okay, that brings us to item 2, which is the minutes from the previous meeting held on the 17th of March 2025. Does anyone have any corrections to minutes? I have no corrections for the minutes. Do I have a proposer for the minutes? Proposed Councillor Andy Kendall, seconded Councillor David Fothergill. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Item 3 is declarations of interest. Do we have any declarations of interest? No? Excellent. Item 4, public question time. I've not been notified of any public questions. There are no members of the public present, so I think we can assume there are no public questions. Which brings us on to item 5, neonatal care leave policy, and I would like to invite Sarah Welland, Strategic HR Business Partner, still your job title, I can never keep track, to introduce the report.
Thank you, Chair. That's a new job title, so yeah, hopefully that one will be the correct one for a while. Thank you. Yes, so I've come today to present the proposed new neonatal care leave policy to you for your consideration and hopefully approval. So this policy is presented in response to the new Neonatal Care Leave and Pay Act 2025 and associated regulations. I know you've had the policy and the accompanying report, which sets out quite a lot of the background and gives you the context, but just to summarise, the kind of rights that are covered within the policy fall into 3 key areas. So the first one is that there is a day one right now. They say this is a statutory provision that we do need to implement, a day one right to leave of up to 12 weeks for an employee whose baby needs neonatal care in the first 28 days of life. The second statutory provision is that if that employee has 26 weeks continuous service at that point, they are entitled to statutory neonatal care pay as well. And then you will see that we have proposed an enhanced provision for full contractual pay for those employees who have the qualifying service requirements as well. The leave can be taken in 2 tiers. Again, that's all set out in the policy. I'm happy to answer any questions on that when we get to that stage. But this is in addition to any other statutory leave they're entitled to. So obviously this would run alongside, well, not alongside, but after the likes of maternity leave, paternity leave, shared parental leave, etc. It is quite complicated in terms of how the regulations are set out. Well, I think it is compared to some employment legislation that we've had to work with previously. So we have got a guidance document sitting in the wings ready to be published for staff and managers to assist them with applying this. I just also need to make you aware that the equality impact assessment has now been signed off. So apologies when that was circulated, it hadn't been formally approved, but that has happened since the report was published. We've had some positive feedback from Unison on the policy, which is great. So unions were asked to give us feedback ahead of this meeting, and Unison have come back positively. And as you'd expect, that's on the basis that it's obviously a positive policy that is supporting staff at a difficult time. And is covered in the report, but just to bring to your attention that we have also sought some feedback from employees who have lived experience of this subject, because that's actually quite important to us. So just to say that we have reached out a bit wider in terms of our consultation with this one. I can talk a bit more about the policy, but I don't know whether it's actually better to hand over to you at this stage.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Probably better to answer questions. My first question is about the equalities impact assessment. So members haven't seen that, have they? Or is that has that been that is in the pack?
It was circulated, yeah.
That is what's fine. Okay, so sorry, I apologize. So that as published has now been approved. That's the difference. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Check that. Okay, do we have any questions? Yes, Councillor Fothergill.
There we are. David Fothergill, Councillor for Monkton and North Curry. So delighted to see this come forward. I think it's a really good addition to our suite of policies. I suppose my concern is that it was implemented 3 days ago. It's come to this committee very late, and I'm just wondering why that is, and how late is too late. Had it come in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time? So just a bit of an explanation of the timing, really.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Yeah, so firstly, so I will start with an apology. You're absolutely right. We are a few days late with bringing this one to your attention and requesting approval. We have got there is a reference to neonatal care leave in the existing maternity policy and paternity leave policy. So we have got a reference to it. We'd introduced that kind of ahead of time over 12 months ago now, but it absolutely doesn't give all the detail that is covered under these regulations. So I do apologise for that. I think it's fair to say that obviously workloads have been excessive of late, and I appreciate that in future that these should come to you ahead of time, ahead of implementation, so that so that we have some room to make or time to make any further amendments that are required, and that policies are ready to go live by the point that the legislation is implemented. So I do apologise for that.
Thank you very much, David and Sarah. Councillor Lee Redmond.
Thank you, Chair. Again, welcome the policy. It's me being I look at things sometimes, do worst case scenario planning and try and understand what's going on, and it managed to confuse me a little bit because the bit about maternity leave, the bit about neonatal care leave, the fact that maternity leave can start before a baby is born, etc. So it's, have you considered, my question is, have we considered worst case scenario planning? And the way I read it would be that it would be in addition to, so it would run conclusive. It's just that, have we done the worst case scenario planning? Are we able to, have we worked it up? Have we, an employee leaves or starts their maternity leave, the baby's born early, etc., etc. How would that work? Have we worked that out, Chair?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Yeah, it's a very good point. And I'll go back to what I said at the start or in my introduction. It is quite a complicated one to add into to existing statutory entitlements. And I think we recognise that how the legislation is written actually in some ways makes it more confusing, and why we will have that guidance document that sits alongside it. And that guidance document will set out different scenarios and how you may then take the neonatal leave in different scenarios. So maternity leave, for example, you're right, often will have started, not always, obviously particularly if a baby's born prematurely, but often will have started ahead of a birth. And actually maternity leave cannot be paused. So once maternity leave is started, you cannot pause it or stop it. It runs its course. So that's why the neonatal care leave you have, or an employee has 68 weeks to take. So they could take their full 52 weeks of maternity leave, and they would still have time to take their neonatal care leave at the end of that, had they become entitled to it. So they may become entitled to it at the start of their maternity leave, but they can effectively bank it up and take it at the end of the maternity leave. You know, and in the really unfortunate instance of a bereavement as well, there is also provision, obviously, for the employee to is still very much entitled to their neonatal care leave alongside or in addition to parental bereavement leave.
Just to follow up in that, Chair, and again, this is probably a silly question, but I'll ask it anyway, just so that I can get it clear. Is neonatal leave available to both partners in a relationship?
Yes, it is, yeah. And just to follow on from that, just add a bit of extra explanation, you will see there's tier 1 and tier 2 leave, which again, I think just makes it, on the face of it, makes it look more complicated. What we anticipate with that is I think that the tier 1 leave is probably, and I know every scenario will be different, so this is not meant to stereotype in any way, but we think that the most likely scenario for tier 1 leave, which is the leave that's taken at the time the baby is receiving neonatal care, is likely to be the father or the second parent or carer, who, if you think the parental leave, paternity support leave is a maximum of 2 weeks, and actually if the baby is needing neonatal care for a longer period than that, then they may, or more likely, we imagine or anticipate, to want the leave at that point in time. If the mother or main carer is on maternity leave, they are more likely then to, will actually probably only be able to take tier 2 leave at the end of their maternity leave. But yes, both parents are eligible.
Thank you. That's really, really great news, and as I say, I welcome policy, Chair. And just not wishing to stifle any debate, Chair, but I'm happy to propose the motion if you need to for now.
Thank you, Councillor Redmond. Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Chair. 5.2 is, I do welcome the proposed policy, obviously very sensible and needed. 5.2 says the right to neonatal care leave is in addition to other statutory leave that the employee may be entitled to, such as maternity, adoption, paternity, parental bereavement, or shared parental leave. Thinking about parental bereavement, how does stillbirths fit into this? Because that's a traumatic period during which people would want time to themselves. So what provision do we have, or does the law have, for stillbirths?
So thank you for the question. It's obviously really important that we're really clear, in, especially in situations like this, the absolute last thing anybody needs to be doing is trying to understand what their entitlement is in terms of work when they're trying to deal with such horrendous circumstances. Parental bereavement leave is a statutory entitlement, and that would, so an employee would be entitled to that alongside, or in addition to, sorry, I won't keep saying alongside, because they would be taken one after the other. So the neonatal care leave they would still be entitled to. There is a reference to that in the policy, so apologies if it's not clear. And obviously if an employee is on maternity leave, then their maternity leave would continue. So again, they'd have the entitlement to those additional leaves as well as their maternity leave.
Yes, Sari, you want to come in there?
If I can just add, so sorry, Bryce, what's my new title? Head of Employee Relations, Inclusion and Policy, sorry. There are specific regulations around stillbirths, particularly where somebody has not commenced their maternity leave. So if somebody sadly suffers a stillbirth at, I think it's 24 weeks, then they are entitled to take maternity leave. So it's covered in a slightly different way.
Thank you very much, Sarah and Sari, and thank you, Councillor Stanton, for the question. Okay, yes, Councillor Wakefield.
First of all, I want to apologise for being late. I went to Dean House, which is what it said in my OneNote, and there's nobody there, obviously. So I just wanted to say, I did read this and with interest. I know there's a new statute, that is why this has probably come forward. So are we complying with it, just complying with it, or are we going beyond it, is my question.
Yep, thank you. So we are proposing to go beyond it. The proposal, the bit that we are proposing to enhance is the entitlement to full pay for employees with qualifying service. So the day one right to neonatal care leave is a statutory entitlement, and then the statutory neonatal care pay for those with 6 months continuous service at the point that this happens. Those are the two statutory provisions. So the part that we are proposing to enhance is to pay full pay for those staff with qualifying service.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Sarah. Councillor Fothergill.
So I just wanted to follow up with that question because I think it's a really good question, and not a criticism of making that decision, but is that consistent with our other policies? Just to make sure that this is not a sort of an outrider with making that decision.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, of course, happy to clarify. So yes, so that's consistent with when employees qualify for contractual maternity and adoption pay.
Okay, thank you all very much for those excellent questions and for those very informative answers. We have a proposer in Councillor Redmond. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Pearlston. All those in favour of the recommendations, which, just for clarity, I will read if I can find them. I've got my papers in a muddle. It is to approve the policy as circulated and delegate to the Service Director, HR and OD in consultation with the Head of Legal any minor amendments that may be necessary. All those in favour? That is unanimous. Excellent. Very quick. Yes, Councillor Wakefield.
So with something like this, there's so many, there are a lot of very complicated policies I've found out since I've been on this committee, but if somebody's going on maternity leave, say, do they get given a sort of little booklet that says, if this happens, this could happen? Because if this happened, it would be so traumatic that you wouldn't know what to do or where to turn, really. I mean, I know you probably would ask your line manager, but I just wonder whether people are given a sort of preparation for this so that they would know what to do. Because there's so many instances in life where something awful happens, and I know this in adult social care, people just don't know what to do. So do we give them any sort of guidance in advance?
So we don't give out a pack of information as such, but what we do is we regularly promote our HR A to Z, which will have all of this information on. With something new like this, we would ensure that there were some staff comms that were circulated. But what we do tend to do, our general route is to refer employees to that HR A to Z, and that's for managers as well. So in this scenario, actually, what if this were to happen, we'd hope is that the manager would be the one that was, kind of sorting this out for the employee and letting them know what they're entitled to and the support that's available to them. But yeah, we are working hard. I think it's fair to say, to improve the A to Z and to make people even more aware of it, and encourage managers and employees to kind of with that self-service element to use that as a first point of call. Then absolutely, if they're in any doubt at all, then to contact, to come through to the HR team for further advice.
Okay, thank you very much for that information. That brings us on to item 6, which is the workforce update, and I'll hand over to Dawn Breckenridge, Service Director, HR and OD.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, apologies that you've not had this in advance. Again, my department has been a bit flat out over the last couple of months, getting ready for the 1st of April, where we've launched our brand new service structures across the whole council. I have asked Democratic Services if they can share with everybody a brief set of slides that I'd like to just talk you through briefly, which will give you a very sort of high level update on where we are with the workforce restructure programme, a quick brief look back at what we've delivered over the last few months, but also a little bit of a spotlight on what's coming next, just to give you a broader flavour of the work. In terms of the HR policy development plan, we also have updated that, and that will be circulated for you for information following the end of this meeting, and we'll bring it to the next HR committee to be able to discuss it in full if you would like to make any changes or provide us with any comments or feedback on that policy development plan. But if you would like to provide any information to us, we wouldn't ask you to wait 3 months. So do come back to myself or to Sarah if there are any points of clarification that you would like to add on the policy plan. So I'm hoping we can share the slides. I was trying to give them
look
a
like some
little bit of
excellent
time
slides,
there.
but they look like the slides for a different meeting.
Trying to help you out there, give you a little bit of time while I I'll make a start anyway, and the slides are just coming up for everybody to see, and we will make sure you've got a copy of all of these, so we will publish them along with the minutes. So this, first of all, is just a very quick update on where we are with the workforce programme as of the end of March 2025. We have delivered £34 million of pay bill savings over the last 12 months, as targeted in the medium-term financial plan, to enable us to help to set that balanced budget in 25-26 for this financial year. The new council structures went live as planned on the 1st of April 2025, and our new establishment is in the region of 4,400 full-time equivalent staff. Now, the following slide will give you some more high-level stats. I just want to say we will be bringing a full closure report on the workforce programme to members. Very happy to share it with this committee. We'll also go to executive, and we won't be formally closing the programme until the 1st of June, and that's because we do need a couple of months to implement all of the outcomes of the restructure, because it has involved over 5,000 staff across the whole organisation, and we are currently just implementing and making live those appointments, and also we continue to do recruitment to vacant posts. And one of the priorities there is to continue to mitigate the need for any compulsory redundancies where staff may still be on notice of redundancy. So just a reminder in terms of how we delivered the 34 million over, sorry, it's gone forward, hasn't it? Thank you, Chair. So can you go back one again, please? So I'm just on the first slide. I'll let you know when I'm going forward. So just a bit of introduction there, but in terms of how we've delivered the pay bill savings over the last year, it's really been in 3 phases. So you'll remember that we ran a voluntary redundancy scheme where we had 194 staff leave the organisation in 2024. We then followed that with a corporate leadership team restructure where we've reduced our senior posts by 6 from 22 down to 16. And then there's been a very intensive piece of work across the whole of the rest of the organisation to reduce the total number of posts. But I think it's really important to say at this stage, this hasn't been about a massive reduction in redundancies. The vast majority of posts that have been removed have been from vacant posts. But unfortunately, we have had the very difficult job of having to work with members of staff who have found themselves at risk of redundancy and supporting them with leaving the organisation with as much dignity and respect and support as they needed, depending on their personal circumstances. I wanted just to highlight to you that we have made some very recent new corporate leadership team appointments. They're listed on the slide for you there. New Service Director for Housing, Kirsty Larkins, which was an internal appointment. Service Director Infrastructure and Transport has not been formally announced yet, so I am jumping the gun slightly. That's going through the executive objections process, but the nominated candidate again was an internal candidate following a national selection process, which is Mike O'Dowd-Jones. We have appointed an interim public health director internally, which is Alison Bell, who is acting up in public health. At the last full council meeting, we have confirmed appointments of 2 statutory appointments for the Section 151 officer, which is Nicola Hicks, who will take up that statutory designation from the 26th of April, and also Alan Jones, our executive director, who will be taking up the permanent post of monitoring officer with immediate effect. And the last one is myself. I thought I had to put myself on there as well. So from the 1st of June, I will be staying on as your permanent service director for HR and OD. And I know all of us there, which is a big overview of internal successful appointments of our own talent within the organisation. We're really delighted to be able to share that news with you.
Thank you very much, Dawn. And obviously, first of all, congratulations on your own appointment. The appointments that you've listed there are either permanent appointments or they were dealt with at the last full council, with the exception of the interim director of public health. And I just wanted to check, can you remind us what the plan is for a permanent appointment in that field?
Thank you, Chair. If we just go on to the next slide, I think we will come up to some
Okay.
of those and I'll answer any other questions on that particular slide. So actually just stay on the one before. Apologies, Josh. So yes, we will be looking to appoint a permanent Chief Finance Officer and Section 1 officer. Because we have gone out to the national market, it is an incredibly difficult time to find somebody that we really need for Somerset Council, and we were unable to fill that permanent appointment on the first round. So we didn't get to an interview stage. We did have a short list of some candidates, but we didn't actually pursue any to the final stage. So therefore, we are looking for an interim or acting up appointment when Maria Christofi, our interim Section 151 officer, leaves us on the 25th of April. And we are reviewing our options, and we are currently interviewing for further interims for Chief Financial Officer appointments. That is happening currently, and the Chief Executive will obviously be speaking to members about that in due course.
Okay, thank you, Dawn. I know Councillor Fothergill had a question, so.
Just a quick one. Could you just clarify the Alan Jones appointment? Is that permanent or is that interim?
Thank you, Councillor. It's a permanent appointment, as it's the designation of monitoring officer, which has been designated to Alan on a permanent basis. Right, I shall move on. I'll speed up. I've only got sort of 2 or 3 slides to move you through.
Dawn, I'm just a bit confused. When you talked about the finance officer, did you say you're interviewing for a temporary one? I'm a bit confused over that. Why temporary? Why not a permanent one?
We've just completed approximately a 3 to 4 month trawl across the whole of the country for a permanent Chief Finance Officer. We have worked with an executive recruitment agency to support us in that search. Unfortunately, we were not successful in appointing. And one of the reasons for that, I think one of the councillors in a previous meeting referred to it as a bit like searching for a unicorn. It is incredibly difficult at the moment to find high calibre Section 151 and Chief Finance Officers of the level that we will require for Somerset Council, being the second biggest unitary in the council, and in the condition of our financial emergency that we still find ourselves in. So rather than just go back out to the permanent market again, because we believe we've totally saturated it, we have contacted pretty much all existing Section 151s. But rather than go straight back out again, we believe, having taken advice and looking at the condition of the market, that it would be better to give that a 2 or 3 month period to settle. So if there is movement in the market, there may be new people over the next 2 to 3 months that will start to become available and maybe considering permanent moves or moving from interim to permanent jobs. So therefore, we do not want to leave ourselves with a gap, which is obviously not appropriate, and we do need to look for continuity for setting the budget for 26, 27. So we need to start that budget setting process now and have somebody to support us all the way through. Our internal Deputy Section 151, Nicola Hicks, has agreed to take it on for a short-term basis, but therefore we do need to look for a replacement. So to be cautious, we have looked for a further interim appointment, and we will go back to the permanent recruitment market in about 2 to 3 months.
Yeah, if I may come back on that, what happens if we're still in the same situation in months to come? No one's suitable, no one's coming forward. Nicola Hicks has said, I've done my time. What is the risk? What is the proposed plan then?
I mean, firstly, I would say we are currently looking at a selection of candidates of very high calibre and high quality for the interim role that are all available and are very interested in joining Somerset Council. So those conversations have started with the Chief Executive, and we're doing technical assessments on those candidates this week. So we are very confident we will be able to secure an interim in that role. If we weren't, then obviously we would need to go back and look at our options again. But we don't believe that that will be necessary.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kendall and Dawn. I've got Councillor Stanton next.
Thank you, Chair. My question was answered just now by Dawn. Thank you.
Fantastic. I've got Councillor Redman.
Yeah, I maybe preempted things, but I think it's important to bring it up now. It's always interesting when we hear about recruitment processes, etc. But the thing that triggers my little warning hairs on the back of my head, not that I've got many left there, is when we start talking about agencies and stuff. So my question is perhaps one you may want to consider when we go forward to future work, but would it be possible in relation to all of the agency that have been involved in all of this senior leadership recruitment, and we're still backwards and forwards with it, maybe having a report on the cost of those and where those costs are being met from? I'm just conscious that we have we're reaching out for advice from a lot of right people, but a lot of that doesn't come as free. So I would just be interested to see where agency costs, recruitment costs, consultation costs, stuff like that in relation to our senior leadership teams and the people that we're looking to employ. Perhaps that could come possibly.
Thank you very much, Lee. That's certainly something we can look at for the future. I think that'd be really helpful. Councillor Lation.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to everyone in HR, as well as the Chief Executive, for keeping me fully informed at all times. And I am totally assured of the course of action that we are taking, understand the pressures, understand what's happening nationally as well with government's talk of local government reorganisation. But just as a reminder to colleagues, we of course need somebody who's experienced in everything that a county council used to do in Somerset, everything that district councils used to do in Somerset, and also the housing revenue account is really important. So we are looking for somebody with experience, really significant experience across everything that local authorities deliver, and it is a big ask, but I just want colleagues to know that I am assured completely by the action HR and others are taking in keeping me informed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lation and Councillor Fothergill.
I wouldn't want to disagree with Councillor Lation, but I would point out that we are only one of over 200 unitaries across the country. So there's quite a big pool here of unitary authorities which do face the same issues.
Thank you for your questions. I will move on. As I say, I wanted to give you a bit of a high level overview, and when we do come to bringing you the full report, I'm sure that will give you plenty of food for thought, and we'll be able to discuss it in full. But as of the end of March, in terms of the second slide, if I can just, I think we're in the right one, so that's perfect. Thank you, Josh. So again, it's just a reminder around where the savings have come from, which we've already covered. But I think it's important to note it has been a mixture of VR, very senior leadership reductions, a whole council redesign and restructure, very robust recruitment and establishment controls, very high levels of vacancy management over the last 18 months, and a very close scrutiny of our agency and interim usage and costings. To give you some idea of the levels of redundancy, and again, these numbers do change regularly and they are coming down because we continue to look for suitable alternative employment for people that are at risk, that are looking to stay with Somerset Council. So we have currently, at the end of March, got 121 staff on notice of redundancy. Of those individuals, 81 are compulsory redundancies and 40 are voluntary. The voluntary comes from where individuals have been in a ring fence and they've put their hand up and volunteered to go on redundancy, enabling the rest of their colleagues to be slotted into posts. We have 69 staff at risk of redundancy previously who have already successfully secured suitable alternative employment with the council. We have confirmed 222 staff into roles, into new roles, and of those 92 were in ring fences, and 130 people have secured employment through us advertising new roles internally. 41 roles across 28 different job types that are still open vacancies, plus 51 vacant roles that are hard to fill. So it's just to let you know that we still have 92 roles available for staff to still consider and look at, and to see whether that may form suitable alternative employment for them. If I can move to the next slide. This is, again, a little bit of a snapshot of what's coming soon for the committee. We promised you some work on a 3-year people strategy for Somerset Council. This will be aligned to the corporate plan. We'll have the golden thread through to the overarching vision and aims of Somerset Council. But again, looking at all the feedback that we've had recently from the Corporate Peer Challenge, from CIPFA for internal and external audit, plus our own internal reviews, we're looking at sort of 3 priorities, really: how we're going to reset and refocus the workforce, how we're going to attract and retain talented people to Somerset, and how we're going to improve and thrive, and how we're going to do things differently using innovation and technology. All of this will be underpinned by our core values: working as one team, striving for excellence and building belonging, and aligned to our target operating model. So there is a document that we're currently working on. It's being led by the Service Director leadership team across the council, supported by HR and OD. And we are hopeful to be able to get you a draft within the next month or 2. If I move to the next slide, I think what I'd like to finish on really is just to look forward in terms of what is coming next. There's quite a long list here, but again, it gives you a flavour of how busy we are in terms of the amount of work that we need to do to support our workforce going forward. So to underpin all of the work, again, that people strategy is really important. And there is work that has currently started with the executive and the executive leadership team to look at our vision and a strategic narrative for the council. It's really important we can tell the story to the workforce of where we are, where we've come from, and where we believe we're going, and how we're going to get there, and what that means for them. And then all of the rest of these kind of activities tend to follow. We need to really look at our culture, our values, our behaviours, our leadership, and our management development. We know employee morale has taken a huge battering over the last 1.5 years, and that's understandable with having to have so much job insecurity for everybody. And we need to rebuild that trust and morale, and we need to focus on staff wellbeing, and we need to look at how we can increase engagement. There are 2 transformation programs that the HR and OD team will be leading on as part of the overarching transformation program for the council. The first of those is a total reward program, and that will include a specific focus on a pay and grading review, and that work will take 2 years to complete. It's a very complex piece of work. And the second transformation program is a SAP Success Factors upgrade. So we're currently using SAP HR for our payroll system and our HR system. It is it's a much older version of SAP, and we need to upgrade that. So we've already commenced that work in March. and we'll be introducing new core HR, payroll and recruitment modules by the end of March 2026. We have a brand new HR and OD operating model that we'll be launching in June. So the team are currently very busy completing the restructure programme. So we've asked for just a little bit of patience and understanding while the team complete the massive amount of work that is still happening around the restructure, and then to enable us to launch and communicate how the new strategic business partnering model will work for the council, how people will access our services, the services we'll continue to offer, and the role of HROD and the role of the manager. So it's very clear for staff, managers and members about the service that is going to be provided from this year forward for HR and OD. We are currently working on rebuilding the SAP HR system and the new structures. Clearly, we've just changed every single structure and hundreds of reporting lines and many different contractual changes have occurred as a result of the work that's happened over the last year. All of that has to be completed for the payroll run in April. So it's a very busy month for us, making sure that we have that all landing well this month. That's all on target and on track. The HR policy forward plan has been reviewed and will be circulated. Establishment control will continue to be a massive priority for us, as will the reduction in agency and interim spend and how we control our pay bill over the next year and ongoing. And then finally, as you would expect to see on the priorities for workforce looking forward, we know that we have been struggling with massive recruitment and retention challenges across the organisation. When the strategic HR business partner model comes into force, we will have 4 dedicated strategic HR business partners that will be working with directorate leadership teams on workforce planning, succession planning, and looking at staff development. We will ensure that all directorates have workforce plans in place. We need to complete permanent senior appointments, and we need to review our focus on early careers and apprenticeships for the future of talent for Somerset Council. We need to look at how AI and digital solutions can help improve the staff and manager experience and reduce the workload and the complexity of the way that we currently do things. We need to do a review of our absence and long-term sickness. That's hand in hand with staff wellbeing. It's something that we need to have a look at and to make sure that those people are being correctly managed and supported, and that there is a sharp focus again on how we're managing our workforce. I think we need to take the opportunity to review the Constitution. 2 years in to the new authority, what we've discovered in the last year to 2 years are a number of things that actually create a huge amount of complexity because of the way that we have written our Constitution. And we're going to take the opportunity to review that, consult and engage with members and look at how we can simplify and improve and reduce complexity on our HR processes. We need to manage risk and action plans. We have so many action plans coming in and all of them have a workforce impact. So we need to be very clear about what we're prioritising and how we manage our resources for the best effect, and that we're measuring what matters. So we've got action plans from SIPFA, for Grant Thornton, from internal audit, from the corporate peer review, for the improvement and transformation programme, and the list goes on. And I think we need to be really, really clear. Why are we here? What are our overarching priorities? What do we need to achieve in 25-26? Why are they the priorities? What needs to wait for future years? And let's focus on making sure that we can truly make a difference and deliver our promises over the next 12 months. We will continue to do that in partnership with trade unions. We continue to meet all of our recognised trade unions regularly. At the moment, that is on a fortnightly basis. And we have agreed to review with them their facility time and also the governance that we have in place. So we need to make sure we have consultative committees in place for our 5 new directorates. We need to up our game on equality, diversity and inclusion. The cultural change agenda is not something that we take lightly, and we need to make sure that health and safety and equality, diversity and inclusion is at the beginning of our thinking around change and transformation, and not something that happens as a reaction after we have made change. So there is a lot of work to do there to look at what is our focus, what are the problems we're trying to solve, and what will be our focus for the next year. So I hope that's helpful, but I just wanted to give you a flavour of what we are working on in the background. It's not all about restructuring. It has felt like that for a very long time, but there are some really positive things to come. And we hope that we're going to be able to do some really positive things to rebuild and refocus our workforce over the next year. But I'm happy to take any sort of general questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Dawn, and obviously huge thanks to you and the entire HR OD team for all the work that you've been doing over this incredibly challenging period. It clearly is a lot, and it's been very difficult. It's really helpful to see what's coming down the pipeline for the next couple of years, because there's some actually really positive stuff to look forward to in that. So I've got Councillor Stanton.
Thank you, Chair. First, I'm sure we'd all agree it's an excellent piece of work that the HR team have been doing over this difficult period. Very professional, very well done. 2 questions. My first one is, did I understand correctly that although we had 555 post-redundant, in the end, only 81 people have been made redundant compulsorily, i.e. when they didn't want to be redundant? Their job to it, is that right?
Thank you for the feedback, Councillor. It's most appreciated on behalf of the HR team. And they have done a phenomenal job in very difficult circumstances when they themselves have also been at risk of redundancy as well. So I'm sure the team hugely appreciate the feedback. So thank you for that. In terms of the number of redundancies, the 81 compulsory were from tiers 4 to 7, really. So it's from this major part of the restructure that we've done so far. There were some other compulsory redundancies, I think, that have happened this year, but I was going to ask if Sari wanted to come in on that, but the 81 are from this period of the big council restructure, so it excluded the corporate leadership team and just looked at everything else. And if you think about the size of reductions we've had to make, the compulsory redundancy numbers are considerably less than the worst projected number that we could have had we not managed vacancies and the programme in the way that we have.
Did you have another question, Councillor Stanton?
Sorry, I was going to come up with another additional number.
No, I'm not going to come up with an additional number, but sorry for those online. Sorry, Boris. Yeah, I can confirm that at the moment, well, sorry, actually that number that Dawn's just quoted in terms of the 89 has already come down. So the 89 are the number of individuals that are current or were at the 31st of March still under notice of compulsory redundancy. But that number is coming down because of the numbers of people that have managed to secure alternative employment as a result. So we started at 550, but we've got down to 89.
Just to clarify, that's 81, I think.
Sorry, 81. But also you have to factor in there are those who have volunteered as well.
I think it's just very impressive result. And as everybody knows, I'm not going to ask a question about this because I know it's been done well, but the crucial thing in handling redundancies is that the people who go are cared for in a way that leaves the people who stay behind feeling okay about it. And I know that's been done well. My second question, simple one, how are we doing on recruiting planning officers?
I probably need to come back to you on exactly where we are with recruitment of specifically planning officers, but we're working really closely, as you know, with the planning team. We are looking at the additional budget that they have been provided, the new posts that will enable them to recruit to, and how they want to organise themselves. The current head of parking is working on job descriptions so we can make sure that the new posts that he wants to put in I'm moving across parking and planning. You can see there's too many P's, isn't there? Sorry, go back to planning. You can see I've been having so many conversations with so many different departments, so apologies for that. So yes, we are looking at that. One thing I can tell you though is that we've also looking to appoint a dedicated deputy business partner from HR to work specifically in the planning team to help them going forward with their ongoing challenges around their recruitment. And that'll obviously be supported by the wider team and the wider recruitment team as well. But until the end of March 2026, they will have a dedicated HR resource, particularly looking at workforce planning for the planning department. Apologies for my trip up there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Stanton. Thank you, Dawn. Okay, next on my list is Councillor Kendall.
Thank you, Chair. Dawn, a simple one. May I just ask a little bit more about the Director of Public Health? I know Alison Bell is in the role temporary. Can I just ask for an update on what is look into your crystal ball and tell us about the future of the Director of Public Health, please?
Thank you, Councillor. There is quite a unique process we have to go through to recruit Director of Public Health with the Public Health faculty, and it is quite complex. It does mean that we have to go out nationally, and there are various things that we need to do in order to appoint a permanent Director of Public Health. So that's all been planned out and the timeline for that is in place. So we'll be very shortly be advertising for that role. And obviously Alison, if she wishes to apply for it, we would be delighted to receive an application from Alison, but it will go out nationally for advert.
Do you want to come back, Andy?
Only briefly, because I mean, when we talk about these redundancies, that if we can find them a job internally or good, I'm just a little bit confused, because if there's a job there that Alison can apply for, isn't that like an internal job that she could just not just walk into? I don't.
It's, as I say, it's quite a unique situation with a deputy, with a Director of Public Health. Alison's also not at risk of redundancy. She has a substantive job in the structure, very senior post within the Public Health team. She is currently acting up as Lou Woolway and obviously Trudy Grant are no longer in that senior level in terms of the leadership team. So Alison has been appointed and is acting up. But as we go forward, we do need to follow quite strict rules on how we recruit a Director of Public Health for the authority. But as I say, if Alison is successful, then she'll get that on merit. It will be a competitive process. If obviously Alison doesn't apply, then she's not at risk of redundancy because she has a substantive role.
Okay, thank you very much, Andy and Dawn. Councillor Fothergill.
Thank you very much. So first of all, can I say well done for getting this far. I think, I mean, the amount of work that you and your department have done, I think is astonishing. So congratulations. And anything that I'm about to say is not meant as a criticism of that, because I'm not sure where the criticism sits, but there is a criticism coming. And that is that very last week, my LinkedIn just went wild with people that I know and link with in new jobs. And new titles, new jobs all came up. And as a member, I felt I hadn't got a clue what the new structure looked like for those people. And I've got to assume that we're still a member-led organisation and that members actually do have a significant impact. But there has been a lack of communications with members during the last few weeks as to what structure is going to be in place, who's occupying those roles, who's actually left the organisation. I think as members, we do need a lot more communications in terms of what the organisation now looks like and who sits in what role. And I know there's a briefing coming up, but that's on the 30th of April. It's a month later. We're going to get to members a month after things have happened. So my criticism, not necessarily of you, because I'm not sure this sits with you, but it sits somewhere, is that please can we communicate more effectively with members on what's gone on and where it now sits and who are the people that we should be contacting. Because I've got to say, I'm pretty up to speed with most things, but even I feel very exposed. And I think 110 members outside of the executive, I think a lot of members will be feeling quite exposed as to what this structure now looks like.
Councillor Lechon.
Thank you. there has been a huge amount to take in, even working, 7 days a week and all the rest of it, which people have been doing. They have been working incredibly hard. So I was going to come in later and say, this is an excellent presentation today. And I completely agree with all of the good words and congratulations for the HR team. I was going to say, I really want all 110 members to see the presentation we've seen today. And I know there is online all of those structures, but with over 4,000 staff, there are massive organisational charts where it's just not possible just to look. And I saw the same thing on LinkedIn. I've been really delighted when people have emailed me where I've seen their new job title and I've gone, that's really great. And where others have been concerned about whether somebody is still staying with Somerset Council or not. And I've been able to say, that person's just emailed you with their new job title, but I completely understand what you're saying, that there is just so much information coming through that it's really hard to get it to all members at the time when we would all appreciate it. But I really, really want all 110 members to see what we've seen this morning, because that is the evidence of the work that you and your department have done, Dawn, so remarkably well. And to see that number of compulsory redundancies reduced from what we were seeing reported in press and media, it's, I know it's not for everyone a good news story, but it is overall a good news story of how this council has worked and will continue to work. So I think perhaps as lead member, perhaps you could take that on board, that we would really like. I think I'm hearing across this room that we would all like all members to have more information, and particularly I think the presentation we've seen today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Liz. I was going to say, yes, I will make sure that the presentation from today is circulated to everyone, probably today, possibly by me before I leave the building.
I come back?
Just a second, yeah. But I mean, I take on board Councillor Fothergill's criticism. Obviously, we have all seen the structure, although not where individual people fit within it necessarily. And I'm happy, I'll come back to Councillor Fothergill in a minute, but I'm happy to pick up after this meeting how best he thinks that ought to be communicated to members, because if we're missing a trick, we're happy to find an answer for that. But I'll go back to Councillor Fothergill.
So I accept what Liz has just said. I accept what you just said. For me, I think this is great. There's a good story there, as to where you've got to, etc. But as a councillor, trying to work my way through this organisation, I can only show you this on my computer, but we had this, which actually detailed who was and what their responsibilities were and went down, and that was so helpful. It's that level of detail of what's the name of the person that sits in that role now that I should be contacting, because the bins haven't been collected in Durston this morning from a woman that's disabled. It's that sort of thing. Where do we go? And that was a really helpful set of slides for members refer to on a day-to-day basis, that we just need that level of detail now, I think, as members. That's what I'm asking for.
And thank you for your feedback. And first of all, apologies in terms of, the communication levels. It's not ideal, and we would have liked to have been far further ahead. We are working really closely with the communications team, and we have made a commitment to get out to all members and all staff who would like to see it as well. Very similar set of structure charts that you've just showed there, Councillor, but with names on. So we appreciate that the information that is available currently on SharePoint was the structures as of the end of consultation. We've now done a huge amount of work, and therefore people have been appointed into roles, and that people will leave and join, so it's a constantly moving feast as well. But we will get structure charts out with names to you all. We will make sure that they are published online, and then we will commit to keeping those up to date as part of our establishment control work. Now, as we move forward, this should be something on self-service. So we should have a SAP system that we can access, or that managers and staff can access, and we'll be able to take off reports. But SAP does produce quite complex looking structures and not really what you're going to be wanting. So what we're committing to is a bit of a workaround using PowerPoint, really, that's exactly like those slides that you've just shared, and making sure that each service breaks down their individual teams and the names of the people in those roles are there, and you'll see what posts are still vacant, and then we'll keep those up to date as we manage the establishment on a monthly basis. We are, as you say, you mentioned the member briefing, that will be at the end of the month, and that's just simply because of the volume of work that has to be done with prioritising the payroll at the moment for April. We just need to make sure we're paying people accurately and on time, and so many staff will have gone into new roles on higher pay. So it's not just a change of job titles. There are some significant changes in people's contracts of employment where they may have secured different roles and gone on to different contracts, and all of that has to be processed. We're having to write to every single member of staff that has had a change in their role, so they have written confirmation of that. So it's just a lot, but apologies that we could do
Just a
better.
request as a member, as
Yeah,
a member-led
totally
organisation,
understand.
could we please tell the members
Yeah.
where they can find that information?
Absolutely. So we'll get that out to you this month. It is being worked on currently.
Okay, thank you all very much. The next on my list is Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Chair. One of the points I was going to make was Councillor Fothergill was picked up, but just to help a little bit and build on that, one of the things I found really useful within the with the email system is that you can look at where someone sits in the structure, and that helps you narrow it down. I also recognise the fact that it's a massive piece of work, so I would like to not only add my thanks to the HR team, but every member of the staff that's here. The level of uncertainty has been massive over recent time. I would suggest that we have one of the hardest jobs is to rebuild that trust and rebuild our employees, etc. What I will also then is add on to that is, I know this is not necessarily work for HR, but it's something we also need to consider, building on the comments Councillor Fothergill made, is where our comms with Mr. and Mrs. Public come in as well. Our websites are very complicated, our websites are very detailed, but very often page A gets updated but forgets to check page B, C and D. So one of the things we need to be looking to do, I would suggest as a council as well, is as things become firm at the top, we make sure that that's cascaded all the way down, because we've done it before in different meetings, different bodies. You go to a web page which is useful yesterday to find that you push the button to follow the link, and that link is changed. It's no longer valid. So we also need to update our IT systems and our web systems. Building on the employee morale thing, I think and your presentation, Dawn, I really appreciate the fact that you talked about trade union liaison and facility time review. I know that one of the issues that the unions had previously was the fact that like yourselves, there were lots of change going on, but the facility time available to our union representatives wasn't enough necessarily to be able to cover everything as well as their day job and looking over their shoulder and everything else. So I welcome the conversation about getting facility time reviewed. It would help build the relationship and confidence. And my final point, Chair, is the next point you talked about was the review of the Constitution. And as you will know, Chair, being the constitutional nerd that I am, that's something I look forward to. However, I think our Constitution has served us well, and it still serves us well, because some of the reason why, for example, we don't have call-ins, so other committees aren't impacted, is the fact that our Constitution is written in a way that the failure of what's happening, what happens with our decision making, isn't enough to facilitate a call-in. So we've got a good constitution. We've got a good. If you can think of ways to make it better, then I look forward to being part of that conversation as well. However, it's served us well to now, and I think it's served us well in the medium. But let's be careful, because we've got lots of things happening at the moment as well. You talked about, we're talking about our financial crisis. We're talking about scrutiny review. All these need to go together hand in hand, because it's what makes the council work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Redmond. Don't know if anyone needs to respond, or if we just need to take your comments on board. I think probably take your comments on board, which are very well made. Okay, Councillor Grimes.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say, totally agree with Councillor Fothergill. I think it's very important to get this structure sorted out so people can see that. But my question, we talked about planning. I know it's not a statutory duty, but enforcement officers, we seem to be so light on that, and enforcement, basically, according to parish councils that we attend, I attend 10, enforcement is non-existent. Are we doing anything about that? Obviously, I realise it's not a statutory duty, but we don't seem to be going anywhere. I can only talk about the north. We just don't seem to be going anywhere with this. The backlog is creeping up. People are really fed up that nothing's happening on enforcement. And one other thing, while I'm on about enforcement, in my part of the world, there's an awful lot of caravan sites. People now are living in caravans permanently, which are holiday listed as, and enforcement, people are complaining about that. Can I ask what's happening about enforcement? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Obviously, there are wider discussions to be had there, which are probably best brought to the attention of the lead member for planning. But on specific enforcement recruitment issues, are you able to give us any sort of update, Dawn?
I'm afraid I don't have that level of detail, but I'm happy to take it away and provide any information that you would like us to. I would recommend that I ask Chris Hall to contact you directly and let you know exactly what is going on with the planning team. But I don't know today exactly that level of detail to be able to answer detailed questions about individual services. Sorry.
But thank you for raising the issue, Councillor Grimes. Councillor Stanton.
Yeah, actually, it'd be useful if we could all have that, because the same issue applies in South. I'm sure it does everywhere, and it for parish councils, it's a really vexing issue.
Okay, we'll make sure that happens. Okay, any further questions on the workforce update? In which case, thank you all very much for your questions, and thank you very much, Dawn, for your presentation and for your answers. Item 7, which is the committee work programme. Just for noting, do we have any observations or questions? I'm going to go to Councillor Redmond first, because I think I've biased looking towards that direction, so I don't see him as often as I see Councillor Fothergill.
I'm happy that you look to the left whenever you can, Chair. It's helpful. Just a bit of confusion, really. It's dates of meetings. There seems to be a big gap between the 9th of April and October 2025. I just wondered if we're agreeing a work programme, then shouldn't there be something in the middle of that, I assume?
Dawn?
Can I just check with my colleagues, because I think what we've done here is we've published the existing work programme and we have got a new work programme that we need to circulate to you. Can you pick that up, sorry, and just explain where we are with that, and we can circulate it round, because this has now been superseded, unfortunately, and it's just the timing of where this meeting sat. Sorry, could you pick that up? Is that possible?
Yeah, just bear with me. Sorry, I just need to open the right document.
I think my question's relevant as well, Theo, if I could ask that at the same time. It was just purely to point out that it seems a bit anomalous to talk about the programme 24 to 25 when actually it runs through to 27. It needs to say 24 to 27, I think.
Yes, and apologies that this wasn't sent out in advance, but for reasons that we've already explained, some of our priorities have had to and resources have had to go elsewhere. So we have, and we will, and I think Dawn alluded to it, we have circulated for information at this stage an updated plan that does only have the HR policies in there. So we probably just need to merge that so that you've got the full picture with health and safety policies as well. So the plan that's actually in the papers is an old version that I think was presented, probably might not even have been the last meeting, it might have been the one before that. So we have got a programme of policies that will go from the July committee through, at the moment, the programme for Councillor Fothergill's purposes, I think only takes us up to next year, 2026 at the moment. Actually, it does go to 27 because of the pay and grading programme. We have tried to prioritise the policies that we know are still outstanding. So there are approximately 14, so there's actually 23 HR policies that remain outstanding. Some of those we know that we have held back because they have terms and conditions elements attached to them, and we just needed to be mindful in terms of how we look at those in terms of whether they form part of the pay and grading review, because of the synergy with that piece of work. So I'm talking about things like additional allowances for things like night enhancements, weekend working, which has a synergy with the pay and grading review. So we do have a programme. We've also have to be very cognizant of the Employment Rights Bill that is currently going through Parliament, which we anticipate will mean that a number of our policies will have to be revisited because of the changes that that legislation is likely to make. So we have built into the programme the fact that we will be bringing you an update to the next committee when we hopefully will have more information on the Employment Rights Bill, and we will bring updates for the July committee, the October committee on that bill. Parts of the bill are likely to be implemented the back end of 2025, but a number of them will not be implemented until 2026. So once the updated plan has been circulated, by all means, have a look at it, send any comments to us, and then we will then do a presentation for you at the next committee in July.
Thank you very much, Sari. And yes, the updated plan has been circulated to all members just before this meeting started. So that's in your inboxes. And if you do have any questions, do please come back to Sari with them. Councillor Redmond.
It's just to refer, Chair, to the comment I made earlier in relation to potentially for our next meeting, the ability to have a look at costs, etc., and agency stuff like that, and recruitment, etc. But it also would be helpful to have the dates of the next meetings in our calendars as early as possible, because I'm finding at the moment that not that I managed to get very many holidays, but trying to fit my holidays around the programme of meetings, as I normally try to do, is very hard because we've yet to have the meetings confirmed.
No, absolutely. I think we're envisaging a meeting in July and a meeting in October, but the exact dates, we're still waiting for the draft calendar to be circulated, but we'll feed back. But we'd quite like to see the draft calendar so we can book that cruise that we're planning to have, Councillor Redmond. Okay, any further questions on that? In which case we note the work programme that we have in the papers and the fact that we have been sent an updated one as well today. Okay, that brings us to the end of our business today. Thank you all very much for your attendance and participation, and I will close the meeting.